Tons of games use a class system to represent a certain archetype within a game. For example, in Final Fantasy XIV, there are certain classes that are tied to several different roles as DPS, tank, and healer. And in Hearthstone, while there is a neutral group of cards that could be used in any deck, there are class-specific cards that push a deck in a specific direction. Meaning that even if you have two decks that share the same neutral cards, they can be played very differently if they are played with different classes. Fighting game characters are no different. Although new players might struggle to find those differences, this video is here to help new players understand those archetypes and what to look out for in a character. In fighting games, there are plenty of different archetypes that most characters can fit in. However, the three most simple and prominent ideas exist in the form of Rushdown, Zoning, and Grapplers. Each of these three archetypes offer up very different playstyles. However, the general philosophy is that Rushdown will beat Zoners, Zoners beat Grapplers, and Grapplers beat Rushdown. For each of these archetypes, I'll be using a fighting game called Fantasy Strike, a game I highly recommend for beginners to fighting games, and examples from various other fighting games I enjoy and play. Of the three, Grapplers tend to be the least common. These characters are focused around their above-average throw game. They tend to be a lot slower and have higher health than most characters, and most of their damage comes off these big, single grabs. In Fantasy Strike, the epitome of a grappler is Rook. He's a character that struggles to get close to his opponents, but once he's in your face, he's a force to be reckoned with. The scariest thing about him, however, is the fact that he forces his opponents into a very scary mix-up on Wake Up. If you think they're going to try and block, go for your C grab. If you think they're going to jump, go for a meaty B attack. Both options result in 2 damage and another knockdown, making the mix-up repeat itself until the opponent guesses correctly, or dies. The key thing to take away from this is that grapplers excel at close range. They have really good damage and have a lot of health, and are usually really big characters. However, they are super slow and struggle to get close to their opponents. However, there is no one that exemplifies the strengths and mitigates the weaknesses of grapplers better than King from Tekken 7.
So prepare, good block.
Oh, he has a
going
check.
against the wall.
Is he going
We're
down?
going downstairs.
He should be able to get the follow-up with the screw as well.
Oh, he went for the hard combo.
Oh my gosh.
He's gonna do it. He got the round.
King is a fast-paced grappler that not only has extremely deadly throws, such as the rolling Death Cradle, he still has very good mobility in comparison to other grapplers. While his sidestep is not the greatest in Tekken, he has quite a bit of control in the horizontal area of gameplay, and also has fairly good approach tools. In my eyes, he's probably the best grappler in fighting game history. Zoners take the idea of projectile spam and refine it to a more thought-out process. They focus on keep away and controlling space, and mainly aim to chip your health down from a safe distance to get you to approach recklessly. My favorite example of a zoner in Fantasy Strike is Geiger, but that just might be because he's nearly identical to Guile from Street Fighter. Geiger throws a slow-moving projectile that has 2 versions, one that comes out right away and one that has a delay. Paired with a very good anti-air that's invulnerable, this makes Geiger one of the best examples of a character who's focused on space control. The key thing with zoners is their ability to control the space between themselves and their opponent. They tend to have multiple long-reaching attacks or projectiles and great anti-airs. However, they also tend to have slower normals than most other characters, and usually very few tools to regain space control once an opponent gets close enough. Because of how zoners are designed, they tend to have the advantage at the start of a round, and will try to push and keep that advantage for the entirety of it. But once they lose it, they tend to lose. My example for a really strong zoner is Peacock from Skullgirls.
Generally, in theory, Philly is the only character on Sonic Fox's team that is straight good against Peacock.
This is really good for him.
Oh, he's doing the full combo. He still has OTG. Doesn't even need it.
Oh, big rollers.
Peacock has an extremely wide array of projectiles that she can throw out, to the point that one of her normals is a projectile. The great thing about her projectiles is that they all serve an extreme distinct purpose in her zoning rotations, and she even has 2 different projectiles that serve as an anti-air option. And while she doesn't have any normals with a vertical hitbox, she does have an amazing get off me tool that puts the opponent very far away. All things compounded, I think it's safe to say that Peacock is one of the best zoning characters in fighting game history. Rushdown is an archetype for extremely quick and damaging characters. They tend to be much more fragile than normal, but have many tools to keep the pressure up at close range and open up their opponents. My favorite example from Fantasy Strike is Setsuki. Setsuki is an extremely nimble character that has many ways to manipulate her momentum, allowing her to open up her opponent in multiple ways. She also has some of the highest damage output that complements her mix-ups. The key thing with Rushdown is that they have great pressuring tools and lean toward high damage combos, and either have really good speed or have moves that help them close distances. However, Rushdown characters tend to be very fragile, and they tend to have the most complex mechanics and combos, and they also have poor range. This leads to Rushdown characters being much more focused on aggressive strategies and usually needing a strong understanding of the fundamentals of the respective game. I think a character that really shows off the strengths of Rushdown perfectly is GT Goku from Dragon Ball FighterZ.
Blocking in the corner, holding back
Look
for
at
his life.
this.
Oh!
Wow. I looked over at Sonic, and they definitely pressed the tech button, but it was a bit too late.
Level 1,
1-1-3.
to level 1, and this time that level 3 is
GT Goku is a very mobile monster who works best close to his opponent. He has solid tools for opening up someone and has ways to get up close from anywhere on the screen. Paired with his really good damage, I would say he is the ideal character for Rushdown. Now, it's important to note that characters will more often than not splash a bit into each of these categories to an extent. And if you solely base characters off of those specific archetypes, you'll be doing these characters an injustice. You might have a character who is both Rushdown and Grappler, making them a powerful close-range offensive, or even a zoner with a Grappler capability, who can control the space in front of them and then goes in for a dangerous grab mix-up. You may even find a character that can do all of these things. In the end, you should take the time to test out each of the characters in your respective game and try to capture a feel for what you enjoy in fighting games. And who knows, maybe you'll find your next main.